The idea was to kind of create a lifestyle in a low-cost setting where they can use the spaces with a lot of light and ventilation. The idea has emerged out of what the clients demanded as a brief. And primarily there are 5 people in the house. The owner himself, who runs a water purification business. Then the wife is an advocate. She has to travel on daily basis to a nearby town. And they have 2 kids, and the owner's father also lives with them. They are like a middle-class family. And it is located in a place called Gadinglaj, which has like a semi-urban kind of an environment. This town is close to Kolhapur, like around 50 kilometers from Kolhapur. So their only requirement was they wanted a house with a certain number of bedrooms. Based on that, we started ideating on that plot. And the major constraint was those 2 long walls, which was shared with the neighboring houses. As a result of that, we did not have any scope to take light and ventilation from those sides. So the only way we could take light and ventilation was from the roof and the front facades. That's how we ended up creating this innovative roof section, which created different volumes for different spaces. There are a lot of close-knit houses in the vicinity, and the plot that we intervened in is this rectangular site, which is roughly 25 feet by 60 feet, and it has roads on the shorter sides. So what one can do is can access the house from both the sides. And before we did this construction, there was an existing structure present on the site, which was from this point up to here, and this entire area was a backyard previously. So we had to demolish the existing structure, and we only retained this hall. The design first goes through like 4 important steps. So first, like identifying the site between these 2 parallel walls, which created that constraint of having a long linear house. Then these walls then were very solidly kind of registered on site as to not to have any sorts of light and ventilation through the longer sides. So as a result of that, we have to introduce a courtyard within the house, which can feed light and ventilation into the surrounding rooms. And that became the guiding point for the design. Since there were 2 parallel streets on the front and the back, we thought, why not create like a thoroughfare so one can walk from the 12-meter wide street from into the house and then pass the courtyard and then reach the rear end of the site. The house was built on the existing footprint. That's why we did not have much constraint with the bylaws, because the house was already up to this point. So we did not increase the plinth area beyond that. And on the rear side, we have left a setback of 5 feet. As a plan, the house is imagined as a sequence of spaces, and as one enters the veranda first, then enters a living room. The second room is not actually the living room, but it's like a semi-room which allows one to navigate into the upper floors. Then one moves into the living room, which is along the courtyard and the veranda. This veranda on one side, it becomes wider and accommodates the dining area. So the veranda, the garden and the dining, they are all attached to the kitchen. Then as one moves towards the rear of the site, there is a bedroom plan for the owner's father. And along the bedroom, there is a veranda that leads you into the rear end of the site. The spaces are flanked with cutouts in the slab, from where we take a lot of natural light, and it also allows for the hot air to escape. As one comes on to the first floor, one is welcomed by a terrace garden which connects the 2 bedrooms on the first floor. So what essentially happens is these 2 bedrooms, they kind of use the terrace garden for their spillover activities. The front bedroom has a veranda that faces the front street, and the bedroom on the rear side has a corner window which looks on the rear street at a 270-degree angle. The bedroom on the rear side has another staircase that takes one into the attic area, which again becomes like an additional study room for the kids. The terrace garden is really the heart of this project, in the sense where a lot of activities can take place throughout the year. Since it's open to sky, we have tried to flank it with a lot of planters and trees. So as a result of that, the lower floors remain cool because of the plants and the trees that grow on the terraces. The walls of the terrace garden, we have tried to paint it in tan red. So the section of the house is developed based on considering the light and ventilation. So the thoroughfare also allows a lot of ventilation across the rooms, and one can have this clear ventilation from all the spaces, and at the same time the air tends to escape in one direction from the courtyard and then feeds into the other rooms. So throughout the day the house is well ventilated and well lit. If you see in section, the house has 4 different roofs with 4 different shapes. The first roof is on the ground floor that covers the courtyard, which is completely built in a metal frame and Sheraboard roofing. It has a false ceiling that covers all the framing from below. The other 2 roofs are the roofs that cover the bedroom, which are a continuation of the form of the overall shape of the house. And these roofs are again conceived in metal with a Sheraboard layer on top, and after that we have lined it with black shingles. The third roof is the roof on top of the terrace garden, which is a lattice frame roof, and this we have tried to keep it like a semi-transparent roofing so that it creates interesting shadow patterns on the terrace based on different times of the day. So the front of the house has a very peculiar facade. It's very characteristic. So if you see, there are only 2 materials that are seen in the front facade. One is the black shingles and the second is the dark grey perforated metal screens. And there are some openable shutters within the facade that allows one to stand in the veranda and kind of interact with people on the street or look onto the street. The rear facade, on the other hand, is very solid in nature, and the only fenestrations are the doors and the windows that appear on the rear facade. So the one important characteristic of the rear facade is the corner window, which allows one to have a view of the street at 90 degrees and also at an angle. This also helps the wind that comes from the street to enter within the house through the corner window. And the rear facade is painted in 2 colors. So to kind of break the scale of the entire mass, the ground floor is in lighter tone of grey and the upper floors are in a darker tone. So the 2 masses are kind of separated visually. This house for me is a demonstration of how one can create that kind of a lifestyle within the given parameters or within the given site constraints. And that is like a biggest takeaway for me from this project. I mean, this project has everything. It has a courtyard, it has a terrace garden, it has a veranda. These kind of spaces that are only experienced by the elite, we have still tried to get them within this kind of situation, where the middle class family can still afford it.